been seeing in LPL on 11.5. I'd say even higher priority than Nvidia. But for the side of FPX, that does mean that you could just go Tristana Alistar, right? We've seen Lwx and Chris, but more than happy to win the 2v2.
Definitely, and I think this is the direction they're going to go. There is also potentially an argument here to go towards something like the Twisted Fate. Doinb has played this a lot, and it really does suit that style, and especially when we're talking about how Doinb has been working in kind of the side lanes, but also in keeping Beichuan safe and trying to be more of a facilitator role for the team right now. It could work out quite well, but we'll have to see if that is something that FPX are looking towards.
Yeah. Excuse me, that'll be the question, as Kaisa still available, so they can go for that one. And V5 have a couple of options here. You can go for the support, try and lock in that matchup, or try and get yourself a favorable solo lane. Because, you know, mid lane has been something that's increased in priority because we are seeing teams starting to speed up a little bit, less of the Azir, much more of these picks that can win lane.
I was looking at the Hecarim and the Kaisa though, and I was like, look, you're already pretty heavy on the dive. I think they're just, well, we've already seen they're going to double down on it now. You have the Galio, which can certainly be flexed down to the bottom lane for ppgod. Galio does really well against the Alistar in lane because you're just able to prevent a lot of that engage, and you also buy a huge amount of space for this Kaisa with the ultimate, so could potentially be flexed down towards that, but certainly we are looking at V5 trying to double down on, hey, let's go all in. So look towards like Langx potentially looking towards picks like the Wukong that we've seen a little bit of, and these picks that can certainly follow up on this short range composition.
And you know what? When V5 puts a comp together like this, it just gets me excited. I love Hecarim Kaisa as a combo. I think it's so much fun to watch. But then when you slam a Galio in there, oh, you know it's going to be a good time. The Seraphine banned away here by FPX, as it can do so well alongside that Hecarim. You can expect that maybe they'll ban something else that's one of these mid laners that can get involved in that mid jungle 2v2 and help bolster the jungle as a carry.
Yeah, Zoe is the pick for me here that I'd like to see banned. Mole, exceptional on that pick. Also just has a huge amount of control in that mid lane right now. Very difficult for Doinb to play these roaming style champions if he's just locked and loaded in that lane consistently with Mole being able to shove in. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that as the direction that they go towards here. And especially, like, in my head, FPX want to try and go for a little bit of range, where you're just like, okay, cool, how do we stop these guys from engaging in on top of us or matching the long range? Well, taking off these champions that can work well in the dive or set up this dive comp need to be taken off the board. It will be the Twisted Fate, not the Zoe, but certainly still fitting into that basket.
Nocturne being respect banned away from Doinb as well. And not surprising at all, because let's be honest, we easily could have seen the Nocturne coming out from Doinb here, just try and out-dive your opponent. But as you say, the Twisted Fate being banned away, the Nocturne being banned away. But the Jace is an interesting ban as well, trying to remove some of these stronger top laners. Now Sett, that's a flex right here.
Yeah, it can go to Doinb in the mid lane. They're still waiting to see what that mid lane pick is. At least as you can see from FPX, they're convinced that this Galio is going to that bot side. So, as you're saying, Doinb could take the Sett mid, it could go towards Nuguri in that top side of the map as well. But it certainly makes it very difficult for Langx to go back towards the tanks, like the Sion here, which Langx has been most comfortable on. And I think this is kind of just Nuguri going and calling out Langx and going, look, you don't want to play carries, you want to play tanks, it's been your bread and butter since you were back in RNG. I'm just going to preempt this and take the Sett into that top lane.
It's good to see intelligent drafting here coming out from FPX, and it feels like getting themselves some good matchups. You mentioned the Zoe before for Mole, very much a signature pick for the guy in the mid lane for V5. We talked about him having to be one of the carries for this team, and I feel like Zoe is the pick. Oh, but this is even more signature for Mole. This is the pick that he played in just about every single lane way back in spring last year, but we've seen it in the mid lane. It's an absolute bully and something he can do incredible work.
I think he's great on Nico. I just don't like the Nico pick here. Like, we've already said, hey, you're all going in, you want to get in on top of them. Nico's kit works much better on a team that wants to jump in on top of you. Okay. All right, this is weird from FPX. So basically what my thought process was, I see Nico, I go, right, we're just going to get range for Doinb in this mid lane, even go back towards something like the Azir, and we just reset the fight off the dive, and then Nico just doesn't really have any options. She can't really get into us. We have the longer range. We can play to just outpoke and outmaneuver V5 in these team fights while keeping our carry safe. But FPX have basically gone here. It's like, we're going to fight fire with fire, where V5 have drafted 4 heavy dive champions. And then Neeko as this kind of follow-up engage tool where now she's got a lot of utility with the Aatrox and the Sett, most likely being close quarters and trying to get on towards this Kaisa.
Yeah, and again, FPX leaning into this style where Beichuan is the primary carrier. Right? It's going to be Beichuan alongside Lwx on that Tristana, the Lillia Tristana combo really being the main force of damage, and then the rest of the team is like frontline and engage. And you know, even though Doinb can be that super carry Doinb, I actually really like it when FPX bring out these kind of compositions where Doinb is more of a facilitator, because I feel like he's so decisive in his shot calls that he's more than willing to make that snap decision and cause the fight that wins the game.
And as you said, like, you've got so much follow-up there in the background where, especially with the Lillia, like, Lillia does really well against dive compositions because you oftentimes are able to get these big sleeps off, right? Because you've got 3-4 members that are all very close quarters. She goes in, whacks them with the El Shillelagh, and then sends them off to Slumberland. So in this situation where you've kind of got the double setup where even if V5 all jump in on top of you with like Sion, Hecarim, Kaisa, Galio, now you can maybe get these big sleeps off. And if not, well then with Doinb going aggressive, you can oftentimes get those face breakers that can set up for these multi-man sleeps as well.
Oh, we're heading on to Summoner's Rift for game number 1 of the day, V5 versus FPX. And you have to expect this is going to be an exciting series when you look at these compositions. I mean, Mole's Neeko coming out, and it's against Doinb on one of these tank mid laners, which we all know about. And the thing is, Sett was picked up last year as one of the things that can kind of withstand a Zoe, right? Because Zoe could never quite 100 to 0 him. You've got the Haymaker to deny a lot of the damage in the laning phase. So maybe Neeko could be a bit more of a favorable matchup. Maybe this is Mole just really understanding these mid lane matchups and going a little bit 5-head on us.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see the electrocute for Mole though, because oftentimes when we do see the Neeko, it's going towards the Glacial Augment, right? And you're going towards the Everfrost, you're trying to double down on all these slows and kind of the push, or at least pushing back against any teams trying to engage in on top of you. But certainly Mole going towards the electrocute here, more lane focus, gives him access towards the Taste of Blood and the Ravenous Hunter to try and stay in this lane and out survive Doinb. But it doesn't really make a huge amount of sense to me, because honestly I feel like just opting in towards the more scaling orientated runes where you can go towards like the free boots and the biscuits that you can even sell for extra gold, I think would have worked better here, because even with the electrocute, I just don't see Mole pushing Doinb out of this lane.
Well, we'll see how he's able to work that one. I think he just has Inspiration as his secondary tree, so still does have access to those biscuits. And we'll have the corrupted version as well. But let's look at the junglers, because we see Beichuan has started up on the top side of the map, whereas WeiWei over on the bottom side of the map. So pathing to opposite sides. Nuguri could be in trouble at around 3.5 minutes. Same can be said for the bottom lane of V5.
And I think this is where we're kind of see the lines drawn in the sand. Certainly Beichuan will want to be playing towards Lwx and Crisp, trying to see if they can set these guys up, because although, as you said, Beichuan is a damage dealer, certainly Lwx is going to be the main damage dealer here on this Tristana. Certainly given the range that she has and her ability to outmaneuver the relatively short range that V5 have in the competition.
That'd be the big question, is maneuvering around these fights and being able to outplay your opponents, because I feel like both of these compositions have a ton of skill expression, right? So many of the champions in this game have the ability to really outplay and, more importantly, really show individual play, show individual style of the players. I mean, obviously, Mole on the Neeko, that goes without saying, but Doinb on the Sett as well. Like, both have a lot of space there to really be themselves as players, but across the board, I feel like in these fights, we're going to have a lot of chaos. We're going to have a lot of opportunity for these players to kind of strut us.
I think especially for FPX, the stronger mid game is going to be interesting to see how they can try and pull that off. Because certainly when I look at like Sett, Aatrox, and the Tristana as well, you can have a lot of power in these mid game fights. And already, actually, just Beichuan saying a quick hello in the mid lane, trying to see if he can try and help Doinb with this wave clear. But certainly, I think we're going to see a little bit more of this, where Beichuan is like, right, I need to try and unlock Doinb and try and get down towards the bottom side of the map. We have this strong mid game where we're picking up early dragons, we're picking up early success, but it's going to be relatively hard when, as you can see in that mid lane, Mole has full pressure. WeiWei can try and help out his own bottom side to a certain extent as well, and try to prevent these early plays from happening.
try and stop the speed. And here's the thing. We've set this matchup up as an incredibly fast-paced matchup, right? We've said how both these teams in the top 5 in the league for average game time, in their wins and their losses, right? So we're expecting this to be a relatively quick one. It does feel like the comps maybe need to wait a little while, especially when you're having junglers and some carries. Sometimes it's better to just farm it up a little bit first, wait until those neutral objectives are coming up before you try to force the fights.
Although WeiWei already down on this bottom side, as he talks about trying to give it a little bit of pressure, but won't be able to force any fights on this bottom side of the map. Mole moving down as well, so look, we can already see both teams are heavily focused on trying to make sure they're getting these early dragons. Because honestly, when I look at FPX, like the way that they try to force these fights, and when you've got like 1 to 2 items set, 1 to 2 items on Nuguri, like the Hysterics and the Stride Breaker set up, is by getting these early dragons for yourself. But unfortunately right now, not going to be the case, as V5 are at least playing well to try and dissuade that.
One of the things I'm going to be looking for today as well, Dagda, is that I want to see... Oh, hang on. I'm going to come back to that. WeiWei is just winning the wings here. Nuguri might have been caught out. Goes for the combo onto Langx. He will be knocked back. He's full health right now. Flashes away, but I think he might just go down on this one. WeiWei hammering away, as is Langx. First blood goes to the pony. Oh, we've got to fight in the mid lane as well, though. Mole going to be put to sleep. Does go for the pop blossom, but doesn't manage to hit anyone. Should go down here. 1 or 2 more hits will do the trick. The haymaker in, and it's Doinb with the kill.
Both junglers getting off to an exceptional start here, and honestly though, I give the edge towards FPX. I prefer the targets decision coming through from Beichuan. If I'm looking at like, okay, cool, I got Langx, a bit of an easier time in this top lane. Doesn't matter in the end of things, not particularly. Nuguri being behind an Aatrox, yeah, he'll have less of an impact, but as we said, he's not the win condition here for FPX. Whereas when I look towards FPX, trying to set Mo behind would do great. Unlocking Doinb from this mid lane is going to work wonders, and it's a nice job here from Beichuan, having just hit that level 6 to go for this in the mid lane. Gets the sleep right as that self root comes in from the Nico, which makes it easy pickings for Doinb to finish off.
Beautifully done. A great flash to start it all off by Doinb as well. So junglers already impacting the map. Each of them finding a kill. 1 kill going over to Doinb, 1 going over to WeiWei. You see Crisp starting the crab off, getting rid of the shield. What a nice guy. You can see both junglers on the same side of the map here, so this could be contested, but Crisp is playing bodyguard for the Scuttle Crab, making sure that Beichuan's the guy on the scene.
FPX do need to be careful though about how far they overextend, because look at the TPs in that top lane right now. With Nuguri having just burnt his to get back towards lane, Langx is the opportunity to go for some creative plays if you would like to do so. So maybe these early dragons or even some early plays from WeiWei down towards the bottom side before Nuguri's TP is back off cooldown could net them some advantages.
So I do want to quickly mention, we're talking about early plays, all of that good stuff. We're halfway now to the 15-minute mark. And currently, FPX are ahead in goal. Now, I'm going to drop a stat on you guys that we've mentioned a few times before, and it is still true. V5 have yet to win a single game this split where they are behind in gold at 15 minutes on the clock. So keep your eyes peeled when we get to that stage of the game. WeiWei wants to make sure they never fall behind that far. He's going into the top lane. Nuguri with the world end of Beichuan's here, but Mole has arrived first. He's going to miss, but Nuguri should go down. Pop Blossom to finish it off. Now the 2v3 though, in they go with the sleep. Look at him go in 2v3 and bringing down V5. WeiWei cannot escape from this one. The dot is taking Langx forced away as well. That's going to be a 2-for-1 in favor of FPX. But they want a little bit more. Langx playing with fire on this one, but it'll be all right.
Beautiful timing from FPX, and again Doinb getting up towards this top lane. Mo, yes, does have first move because of the pressure that he has in the mid lane, but a great job from FPX to respond and actually turning it around. So nice here for FPX. They'll be able to turn over towards this Rift Turtle as well. You can already see Chris moving up to make sure that they've got that man advantage. So FPX turning what was a little bit of a win for V5 into a major win for FPX.
And we talked about Beichuan.
Oh, is it though?
It's not to 500, and he didn't have Smite. Beichuan doesn't get it, but at what cost here? At what cost? Because V5 managing to not only get the Herald, they're going 1-for-1 on this one. Doinb goes down as in comes Galio to extend the play. ppgod on the scene. Nuguri will fall for the 3rd time this game, and V5 get everything.
And I was a little bit worried when I saw FPX starting up that Rift Tower because I was like, hang on a second, you guys are kind of low. And without Nuguri, I don't know if you have the damage to just burst through that Rift Herald. And you see it there. They try to go for it, but they just can't quite get it all said and done. Crisp has even gone back to the bottom lane. So with the resets coming off from V5, they end up losing out in the grand scheme of things now. Even with this really great CC train coming in from Beichuan to get the sleep set up for Doinb, it all comes to naught with that Rift Herald going the way of the Hecarim, and as well those kills going across towards WeiWei as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, they actually had the damage. They almost killed it. It's just Beichuan didn't have Smite, so they couldn't finish the damn thing off. Enemy's WeiWei could just gallop into the play and smite that one out. So very nicely done by WeiWei. V5 have secured that all-important early game gold lead. Now Drake on the bottom side of the map is started by Beichuan. This time he has Smite. WeiWei does not. I don't anticipate a contest here from V5.
No, they won't try and go for this, but I think this is where I wanted to see FPX try and use the bot lane pressure that they had at that Rift Herald was, look, go for the reset. You just got these big kills, this big win. Try and force a second fight up at the Rift Herald instead of actually just throwing away that lead that you had. And then you can even turn it again in towards more pressure off of Lwx and Crispin's bottom lane and get that dragon. So unfortunately, FPX trying to accelerate the pace a little bit too much there, and it ends up coming back to bite them. But then when we look towards V5, it's like all their kills are on towards WeiWei. And although that could usually be good if you're going for something like a Triforce build, with this more tank-orientated build that we've seen coming through in the Hecarims, the damage isn't really going to be as founded. And they're certainly hoping that WeiWei can now transition this pressure into the bot lane, help out Trigger, who does need to be the main source of damage for this V5 team.
WeiWei right now is a big source of damage, but obviously going to be building tanky. So as you say, that's not necessarily going to be the case for much of the game. Does have that Herald though, so I'm curious where V5 will go with this one. Does feel like just moving it up to Langx could be an easy option for them. Not really the ideal pick to have the gold. Found by WeiWei, but I think he can just skip, hop and a jump away from that.
It looks like at the moment they're trying to set up for something in this mid or top, because ppgod is coming from base. You can see Langx tries to connect with the ultimate, but not quite able to do so. And it looks like with all these movements, they're going to try and commit this Rift Herald towards top. You've got Mole and ppgod moving up here to support.
Yeah, so first tower taken here by V5, and regardless of the answer from FPX, they get that first tower, but now that answer comes on through. Doinb in with the showstopper. The rest of the team trying to close the gap. He's a little bit ahead of the crowd right now. Crisp is on the flank though, looking to stop the escape. In comes Galio to answer. ppgod on the scene. Onslaught shadows across through everyone. Beichuan getting chased down by WeiWei. Nuguri trying to protect him. It's 2 versus 3 now, and it's FPX that are winning out just about. ppgod sneaks away, but FPX win the fight.
And this is the fights that I wanted. This is the scrappiness that I was expecting coming into this game. A kill a minute already on the scoreboard. But already you can see the back and forth. And unfortunately for V5, they're the ones that are losing out. They're not quite able to keep up with FPX. Although as I say that, they still have a bit of a gold lead for themselves. Although some of these early turret plates that FPX still have potential to pick up could change things.
Yeah, really importantly, FPX won the fight by 1 kill. But V5 got that first tower before the fight kicked off. So in terms of gold, V5 is still ahead. We've got 2 minutes on the clock until that 15-minute mark. 2 minutes for FPX to get ahead of V5 in gold. To change that statistic up, but here we go. Doinb started off with the showstopper. I thought he'd gone too deep, but he managed to pull it off.
Yeah, especially when they had Crisp roaming up as well. Just nice read coming through from the FPX support to go, hey, look, with ppgod having this ultimate and Galio available, there's so many options available for them to go for these plays. And when you saw WeiWei in that top side jungle, getting vision control, forcing back Beichuan, you knew something was going to happen in that top side. But honestly, I'm surprised that we're still seeing so much pressure towards this top lane, because as you can see, you got 4 kills on Hecarim, who's a tank. And then you look at the other side, the most kills is for Doinb, who's on a tank. So you're looking at like Trigger and Lwx, the 2 guys. I was like, you need to get these guys going. These are the win conditions. They're kind of just sitting there going, yeah, guys, thumbs up. You guys do you. We're just going to sit down here and farm our way.
Yeah, you've got the super early turbo chem tanks and then tracky bottoms on both sides. It's the trousers that make you run fast right there. So nice stuff to see coming out from Doinb and WeiWei. But as you say, not really where you'd ideally want that goal to be, but that's okay. As we look at the scoreboard right now, 6-6, we're getting towards that 15-minute mark, and it is going to be V5 that lead in gold at this stage of the game. Nothing's going to happen in the next 30 seconds. So we are in winnable territory for V5 right here. Dagda, we've got a game on our hands.
And that's all we really wanted, right? Was to make sure that V5 were showing up. And honestly, they are. Even though FPX have been able to turn around some of these plays, we've had like classic V5, you know, focus on these early Rift Heralds, making sure that they can get down some of these early structures. But big question is, though, now with that top lane Terror down, can they unlock Langx from this top lane, get that second Rift Herald, use that to open up this mid lane, and then they can really start to maneuver around the map, get some deep vision, easily clear this bottom side of the map as well, and then get themselves set up with a much stronger gold lead coming into these games.
Those mid-game fights are going to decide everything. And just look at the ultimates available on both sides when it comes to the team fights. If we get some 5v5s, they're never really going to be proper team fights. They're going to be lots and lots of little skirmishes combined into one fight, right? When you look at some of the ultimates we've got available, when you look at some of the abilities, some of the tools that we can see, like V5, tons of dive potential, but you've also got the Nico that can be that big team fight ultimate. But speaking of that fight, Dagda, we've got some TPs coming on in. V5 trying to contest the Drake. It's Beichuan to get the smite. In they go. Onslaught of Shadows onto everyone. FPX being forced away. Doinb on the backline alone and will get taken down. Pop Blossom comes on in. And FPX only 3 members strong remaining, but they still want to go for the fight. Jumping in for Lwx, but he can't finish the kills. Can't get the resets. Gets pinned against the wall and gets taken down with a triple for Trigger.
Oh no, this is like worst case scenario for FPX. Trigger picking up the triple kill, and my god did he deserve it. His position in that fight was so good, and unfortunately for FPX, they just weren't quite able to get the engage that they would have wanted to, and now V5 are in prime position in this game.
And we talked about gold leads, Dagda. Look at that for V5. 3,000 now in their favor at 16.5 minutes. They are finally in fantastic standing, and the gold ain't just on WeiWei anymore. Trigger getting himself a triple kill, has that Kraken Slayer, has a serrated Dirk as well, gets to base and turn it into a collector. Trigger is officially online.
And you can see in this fight just how much he's able to get that damage off. Even though Doinb gets this big engage in, Trigger able to reposition with that ultimate, and with the amount of space ppgod bought on the backline, they're able to deal with Doinb, completely separate him from the rest of the FPX, and from that point, Trigger's just picking them off one by one. WeiWei also arriving late offered more opportunities to separate out FPX, and while they're all isolated trying to figure out how we dance around this fight, V5 are tearing through.
I have to say, I was just looking at Doinb smashing away at that tower. I feel like Sett is becoming despite V5 obviously managed to pull themselves in the lead, I'm really scared of that Sett. I feel like that could be the difference maker for FPX in some of these fights. If he can find the right situation. But in that one, he went too far alone. That's the big downside of Sett. If you're alone, you don't really do anything. It's an amazing engage, amazing team-wide CC, and tankiness. You need someone to follow up. So we need to look at how FPX play these fights. V5 starting to fight here. WeiWei just take a couple of hits. But yeah, again, it's about how the execution comes down in these really chaotic fights.
And Doinb certainly needs to be getting on towards Trigger as well. It's not enough for him to just get like Langx and toss him in on top of WeiWei and ppgod. Like, they're tanky boys. They can take the hit. He really needs to make sure that he, as you say, setting up Lwx in these fights by CCing Trigger, allowing this Tristana to use the range advantage he has. But, oh, Lwx.
Look at the combo coming on in. That is beautiful to see. WeiWei with another kill for his name. ppgod slamming in with the disengage. There's nothing FPX can do about it. They're sent packing into their own jungle. But WeiWei says, actually, you don't get to go anywhere. Chasing him down. And now towers can fall in the mid lane. V5, they've got a vice-like grip on this game.
And this is what we talked about. V5 are one of the best teams when they get these early leads of snowballing them out of control. It was one team fight that's now turned into 2 towers in this mid lane. That bot lane tower is going to fall, giving them more gold. And in a minute and a half, they can take all this massive influx of resources they've gotten and turn it in towards that dragon as well.
So able to get a bunch of gold, bunch of extra stats basically to use now, because you can see Molt having that Everfrost. He's getting real close to his Zhonya's off the back of those fights now. One more recall probably. He'll be able to pick that one up. Drake coming up in a minute though, Dagda. This one's important for FPX.
Yeah, we will have a quick look at this engage though again from WeiWei. Amazing play here from WeiWei to get that interrupt on towards the jump from Lwx. Plus then the onslaught of shadows to make sure there was nowhere for this Tristana to go. And this is how a lot of this game is going to be decided. It feels like it's going to be through these flanks. Like, if you can have WeiWei coming in on these really clever engages, same when you look towards the likes of ppgod and this Galio, they can do a lot of work on those sides.
But, you know, the thing is, I'm not sure we're going to see much side lane in here. I feel like we're going to see a lot of just team fighting out of these two teams. Nuguri in a position to flank, but he has to dash away over the wall. Taken here. I'm not going to lie, I saw Trigger running in there. It was a Nico clone. It was Mold pretending to be Trigger, pretending to run it. I got baited by the Nico. Here we go. Sleep across the team. Hot Blossom though to deny the engage. It's only on to Doinb. In comes the rest of the squad. FPX running out of health though. They've started a fight that they just can't win. Mole somehow surviving, trying to get out the back of the pit. Still going, but will finally fall to Doinb. WeiWei on the back line, just waiting for that flash from Doinb. Beautifully done as he takes out the Blasco. Nuguri's over the wall, but there's nothing he can do. Beichuan looking for a little afterthought kill. Gets the dot onto WeiWei. Gets a little bit of revenge for his dead teammates.
At least there's something back for FPX there, but honestly, that fight was a disaster and desperation from FPX. You can see how desperately they tried to get on towards Trigger in that fight. Doinb literally, like, just head down Naruto running towards the backline, like, I gotta get there, but unfortunately ends up taking way too much damage in the meantime, and that's a big team fight victory coming in for V5 as Nuguri, yeah, you can clear out this wave, but Dragon going the way of V5, Terrors again going the way of V5, and more of that gold being funneled in towards this Kaisa.
Yeah, so even more gold in the pocket of Trigger now. 6 kills on that man. He's got a Phantom Dancer as well. When you look at this fight, this was FPX starting the fight. We said these guys play fast. They're proving it to us today.
Yeah, I see Doinb running in there, and like, again, running straight on towards Mole is not the pick. Mole just ults, keeps himself safe. Trigger gets full access towards that backline, assassinates Lwx. And from that point forward, like, where's the damage here? I mean, yeah, you got Beichuan, but he's not going to be able to rip through how large WeiWei is, how big this Sion is either. So once Lwx is gone, so are the hopes of it.
Yeah, so 15-9. Let's kind of recap where we're at in this game, because it feels like it's been going real quick. We're 22 minutes in. Now with V5 getting a Drake for themselves, that sole win condition is just a little bit further away for FPX. If you're an FPX fan, how do they get back into this game? How do they stop the chaos from just snowballing in favor of V5?
I mean, it's kind of already done so, right? You've got 6 kills now on towards this Kaisa. Collector, Phantom Dancer finished as well. And especially because Lwx has realized, look, I'm not actually going to be able to get access towards Trigger in the backline. I have to fight this front to back. He's gone towards that Lord Dominic's regard, but the issue is Trigger has much more freedom in these fights because V5 are ahead, and that gives him the opportunity to actually just directly access Lwx in the back.
That's just Baron for free for V5 right now. And FPX are 4 after the fact. In they go. Ultis down. It's an easy fight for V5. They're taking this win for themselves. Mole with a triple after the Zodiac already. This is going to be game number 1 going to V5. They can just run it down mid.
Yeah, and sure, you get the triple man sleep coming in at the end, but honestly, that was the team fight of dreams for V5. Now, with Baron, 23 minutes in, only Doinb left up. This is going to be the game lunch.
I think you might just be right on that one. V5 can plow this one home because they're still 5 members strong. Langx can protect those minions. Doinb doing what he can, but what he can is absolutely nothing in this one. First tower will fall. Crisp trying to defend, trying to tank up some damage for his team. The Trigger is onto those Nexus towers. They're just going to kill anyone that comes near. Lwx knocked up, gets one for himself, but that is all he will find as V5 get themselves a win in game 1.
Beautiful play from V5, especially when we talked about how these guys are on the ropes. They need every single win that they can muster. A performance like that against FPX, keeping them in check, shutting them down early, and WeiWei with a magnificent performance on this Hecarim takes over the game and sets up V5.
It's so beautiful to see as well that we get to see V5 on top for once. Feels like a long time since I've been able to really celebrate a V5 game victory like that. But the early game, really intelligently played by them, matching what FPX wanted to do. It did feel like we had the two junglers kind of synchronized, moving across the map and matching each other every step of the way. But it was WeiWei that pulled ahead in the matchup.
Yeah, and I think that was the big one. Because WeiWei was able to get those early leads, it was more about transitioning that into the team fights where V5 just blew it up. Because honestly, I was kind of like, okay, cool, this is still relatively even. Like Doinb, he's got a couple of kills for himself. This tank Hecarim has a few for himself as well. But when we got towards the team fights, Doinb not getting access on towards Trigger meant the Trigger was pretty free to move in these fights. Whereas a lot of the times, because WeiWei had that direct access with the Onslaught of Shadows, it made team fights much more difficult for Lwx, and he had to figure out new ways to actually have an impact, but they just weren't working for FPX.
Yeah, really, really rough game for FPX, honestly. And look, FPX, when you look at the standings, this is a team that should be looking amazing going into playoffs. Right now, this is a 5th place team against a 12th place team. This should be FPX coming in and feeling strong. V5 really giving them a run for their money. And I have to say, for V5 fans out there, with the team on a 5-series loss streak, this game must feel like a breath of fresh air. This must feel like an absolute relief for V5.
Yeah, definitely. And especially because, as you talked about, the manner in which it was done, right? We had great performance coming in from WeiWei in the early stages. ppgod looking great on this Galio, like buying so much space in team fights for the likes of Trigger, so they could just like play this more front to back almost style. And when we look towards Mole as well, drawing so much attention from FPX, getting these big ultimates to, allow again, buying this big big circle space in the back line, so Doinb is separated, so they can deal with the Aatrox from the top side of the map as well. It was just really well coordinated team fights from V5.
Yeah, really fantastic stuff to see. And it wasn't even just like the team fights, right? Because we saw a lot of this early on in the game where it's like kind of your 2v3s, 3v4s, these kinds of things. And it felt like V5 were playing intelligently around those. There was a couple that went the way of FPX early on, but it was the Herald play, I think, really began the game for V5. FPX overstepped a little, started that Herald that they couldn't really commit to. V5 get the Herald, get the fight off of the back of it, then turn that into the first tower of the game. And sure, they lost the fight up in the top lane, but they got themselves that gold lead. Once they got that gold lead for themselves, they did not stop for a second.
Yeah, and I think the biggest curiosity for me from the FPX point of view was why they just didn't play around the pressure bottom side. And like as we talked about, if you even set that Aatrox behind, right, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's more so if like Lwx gets a lead on this bottom side of the map, or he starts to get a bunch of turret plates for himself, like the damage output from the AD carries just becomes too drastic for you to really deal with. And from that point of view, then you can actually have a much bigger impact when it gets towards fights and, even the turret taking pressure that Tristana offers. But with losing that initial skirmish up towards the Rift Herald, then losing the ensuing dragon fight as well, just with kind of not really having the coordination in place, meant that it was easy for V5 then to take those two big objectives, translate that lead into another Rift Herald, and just towers gone across the board.
Yeah, easy for V5, easy for WeiWei, easy for Trigger, a guy that's been criticized on this team and having a fantastic game 1 for himself. We're going to jump into a quick break. Do not go